Hey guys, in this video I just wanted to take a quick look at the mastering and we'll talk about some final thoughts about making synthwave music as a whole. So let's get straight in. Right, it's actually been a few days since I last looked at this track. Before I go into mastering, I've mentioned this before, I tend to walk away from the track for a few days. I've got three main sources of referencing where I'll render the track out and I'll go and have a listen to it, but give myself a day or two before I listen to it again. So those are the MacBook speakers, which I've spoken about before. The MacBook speakers are particularly good at representing small consumer kind of Bluetooth kind of speakers, but they're very good. I've got a little pair of Mackie CR3s on my second studio computer over there. And I've also got the car. Obviously, listening to tracks in the car can expose all sorts of problems low down. Now, overall, I was pretty happy with the track, but I did make a couple of changes to the vocals. Now, I've got some big three-way speakers here, and they are very good at making what you're making sound kind of crap. That's the job of these monitor speakers. But it's always worth checking on a different source. And also, there are two friends who I kind of bounce ideas off. Look, can you listen to this? I've mentioned this before as well about making contacts. And one of them mentioned that the vocals sounded like they were sitting on top of the mix a little bit. So I've come back to it and I've made a change. So if we look at this vocal group, I've EQ'd the vocals more severely. And I've also decided to put a de-esser on the vocals. Now, it's not that the vocals, I don't think they really needed them. It's not that anything was standing out, but there is a bit of a benefit in using them in this case. So the EQ is just slightly more extreme than what I was already using. So we're taking quite a lot out at 1.5 kilohertz, quite a lot more of the bottom end out, and there's a boost, about 7. So it's just rebalancing. It's almost acting like a wonky tilt EQ. So if we listen to this. And you go all the way around the sun and back again, back to where you came from. And you go all the way around the sun. So it's just helping the vocals sit down with the other elements more than just poking over the top a little bit. The de-esser, if we have a listen, where is this big S? All the way around the sun. Here, sun. Now with the de-esser on, it's just toning that down a little bit. Okay, so I've set the frequency of the de-esser to 7.5 kilohertz. That's roughly where the de-esser is going to be pulling down the sibilance. And again, I don't think it's a massive issue in this track. But I've just made these slight changes anyway, because I do think it makes a little bit of a difference. Now, one other thing I noticed, funnily enough, on the MacBook speakers, is there is one or two little cracks and pops in the vocal. Down here in particular, if I solo this channel, so there's a little pop or a crack down here. Let me see if I can find it. Hello? See this little, it sounds like the artist is just clicking his mouse to stop recording, which I did miss before. Now you can make edits to these vocals in Live 11. So if we go into the new, let me just get these heights right. If I select all of these tracks, right click on them and link the tracks, you can see this little icon here. These are all linked now. So whatever changes I make, did I not link that one? Whichever changes I make are made to all the tracks. So I could kind of delete all these sections if I wanted to take audio out, and then we can do all of the fades at one time. So you can go in and edit these vocals a little bit more severely. I'm just going to reverse that. I'm going to leave it in. So if you want to edit them out in the channel project, you can do that. But have a listen to those little clicks and pops you might get. And you might also get, as the singer's breathing in, the breath in these vocals were fine. There was no big kind of sections with breath. But he may be doing something like ASMR. Maybe doing something like that you want to edit out. But really, that was the only change I made overall. One other thing I experimented with is if we come up to the kick, there's this little, I think this is the weekend kick attack. Just unsolo everything. I'll solo the kick now. So it's just this added to the kick. You can blend that in or out. So really it's just little tweaks. Like I said before, the kicks that you're used to hearing are the Lindrum, the TR-505, that kind of thing. But I decided not to go down that road. You don't have to use exactly the same sounds as you've heard before. But that's just kind of adding another layer of authenticity to the 80s sound. And then finally, I want to look at the mastering. Now, I would usually use Sonox Inflator, the Elysia Alpha mastering compressor, and then in terms of EQ, I don't tend to do a lot, but I would get quite surgical with FabFilter Pro Q, and then I'd run into Pro L, FabFilter Pro L. Now, and again, my version of mastering isn't really a real master. I'm not a mastering engineer, but really for me, it's preparation. It's getting it closer to that like released track sound. But ultimately, if this track was being released, I would switch my mastering off, give it to the record label, and they would most likely have it mastered themselves.